Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at two really interesting men and their organizations. We've got the American Intelligence Media with Douglas Gabriel, and Americans for Innovation with Michael McKibben. Now, I've talked about this before. I did a video not too long ago about exposing the political criminals, and it has to do with Michael McKibben's group of patent lawyers that have put together an amazing timeline of crime for the last 17 years where they've identified the key players in the deep state, the shadow government, that are part of what's known as the SES, the Seniors Executive Service, that was put into effect to control the bureaucracies that will then in turn control the investigations into the crimes of the higher people up, the presidents, vice presidents, and secretaries of state, and everyone else. And this is all verifiable evidence, or evidence that you can take into court. They've been in court battling this for over 17 years. If you haven't heard the story with Michael McKibben, it's an interesting story because this is the man with Leader Technologies, his company, that designed the software for all the network social networking that we have now, with Facebook and Google and PayPal. This technology was stolen from Michael McKibben 17 years ago, and it's a big problem that we have with our patent office in America. You see, the powers that be, they don't have creativity. They're not creative people. They have to steal our creative works, and that's exactly what they're doing. And as they're finding out by looking into this, all of our patents go through a company called Circo, S-E-R-C-O. It's a British-owned company. And they keep following the roots to this, and they're finding all these companies all tie back in and how they all tie together. And it's really interesting how are making some sense out of this. And it explains why I think that number is up to maybe 30,000 sealed indictments now, that supposedly a lot of heads are coming down right now. And again, this is the proof that they've committed these crimes is something that you can take to court and put these people on. Now, what Michael McKibben is going through in this court case for 17 years, of course, he keeps going to court and loses because our court systems don't have any justice at all. But we really do need to understand the significance of what's happening here, you know, with these social networking software that they've stolen from us. Michael McKibben was the first guy that created a system that could handle millions of people. But they all have back doors in, and that's why these pads are being stolen in the name of national security. And again, they've been battling in court for 17 years. They've got a team of really smart people putting together evidence that can be used to indict these people. Again, 30,000 indictments. When I first heard this some while back, it was like 7,000 sealed indictments, and it kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And this ties into what Trump says, I want to clean the swamp. And he's going after the human trafficking. And that's what's really interesting, because when you look at how all these connections piece together, the SES, who started the SES? Jimmy Carter hired Christine Marcy, who is Phil McConnell's sister, to create the SES in 1978. And within 79, she created this system where these bureaucracies, these head of bureaucracies, could then be in 75 different departments and then control everything at those levels. Now, what Phil McConnell said about his own sister, he said that this is the most evil woman in the world, and that her and Hillary had the biggest pedophile ring ever. And now I'm getting comments on my channel saying, oh, you know, Trump is a pedophile. Really? This is the basis behind how he's bringing down so many people. He's tying them all into this human trafficking, because this is what the powers that be are into. They get into that stuff, so it's very common. So this is how these people are supposedly being brought down. And again, you have to understand, if you're going to try to accomplish something like this, you don't tell people what you plan on doing. Imagine if you were a general and you said, I'm going to attack that country tomorrow. I'll call them tonight, let them know, hey, we're coming over, 6 o'clock, be ready for us. No, you don't do that. So from what I've heard by these two guys, Douglas Gabriel and Michael McKibben, is that the reason why Trump has hired certain people in certain positions is so that he can then give them an offer. Say, look, we'll give you a deal. You can either come clean and tell us what you know about everybody, and you can take a plea bargain here. We'll save your life if you squeal on everyone else. And that's exactly what's happening. People are making deals all over the place and are naming figures. And again, what's really fascinating about this is because Michael McKibben has been studying this for so long, that he says that all the key players that were involved in stealing his technology are all the same key players that are involved in attacking Trump right now. Now we have to ask the question, how many layers are to this onion? I have a divergent personality, so I'm not quick to assume I know everything, and that I wouldn't question the possibility that everything's a ruse. There's so many layers to this that if this ruse doesn't work, there's another ruse. I know that we're the Goliath in this situation. I'm optimistic for a simple reason. We're the Goliath in this situation. And I know the powers that be have to go very slow at how they manipulate us. If they go too fast, we wake up. So they have to have a game plan on how they can at least fool us to pacify us and make us think that something's being done. And that does seem like it could be a possibility, but not when you look at the list of the accomplishments that Douglas Gabriel lists in his video. And I made a link to that before. For some reason I can't copy and paste that into a post. Even if I try to add it to a comment, it's just too long at this point to put it in there. But I did put a link to my transcribed notes on this, and this is worth looking at, because when you look at what's being done right now, it's looking like this might even be a possibility. Could it be a ruse? Yes. Who knows? But we have to understand that there's a reason to be optimistic. We are the Goliath in this situation. All we have to do is reach the tipping point. All we have to do is to get enough people to realize that if we all just play our role, be the best that we can be, go upstream and get reconnected, that we won't have to deal with all these subsequent needs from being disconnected. And that's where government is. I've mentioned this many times in my other videos, and I'll link all my other videos related to these issues, that government is a subsequent need. It's one of our 10 subsequent needs because we're sick and disconnected, 6 of which are used to control us. And it all begins, if you go back to my video on Satan's secret weapon, I explain how governments go through cycles, the Kykos cycles, and how democracy itself goes through 9 main cycles, and we're at that last stage right now. And that it all began because of mob rule. And that ties back to the fall of mankind. Before the fall of mankind, it was not a problem that we all self-governed ourselves, because there wasn't anything wrong with this. But as soon as we made that big first mistake and became disconnected, it wasn't good to have a mob rule. That's where the whole governments begin. I explain all that in that video, Satan's secret weapon. So it's not easy to weed through everybody. The people I just told you about, Michael McKibben, I can't imagine in any way he's controlled opposition. Douglas Gabriel, however, is failing the usury test. He's sneaking pages in that book of usury, but I think he's just doing it ignorantly, as many people do, because that's how effective the people are who get paid to do it. They do it dozens of times within an hour period of time, where they're constantly putting those references to make us believe in this false belief of scarcity, and not wake up to the fact that we live on an extremely abundant planet. And I'm telling you, my friends, when we can realize that we have to do some downstream work with making the system better, because the system is damaged. And once we realize that the ultimate goal to solve this dilemma is to go upstream, where we get reconnected, we reach the tipping point, and we can do it away with all these subsequent needs that are used to control us. What's the ultimate solution for money? Well, initially, we get rid of usury. But then once we reach the tipping point, our mentality will change. We'll go back to the gift mentality we had before. We have an exchange mentality now. It's not working. And things aren't ever going to change unless we change that mentality. And there's only one way to change our mentality. Got to flush out that serpent, bump up those biophotons, and that comes when we take a solid food vacation. And when you do it, you know, my friends, you're in for a treat.